Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Shire. But we are not at the Shire today. We are at the condo kitchen. And today we're going to have a special treat for us today. But before we start, I wanted to say it's been a couple days since I posted a video. And the reason for that is I was doing some cleanup on my phone and changing some files around for some permanent storage. And I got to tell you, when you turn 60, I swear your ability to do that seamlessly just kind of must leak out of your pores. I don't quite understand it, but it took me way longer than I thought it would. But nevertheless, I got it done. Additionally, and this is really exciting, the boys for Christmas got me a couple of new tools, some lighting and a DJI Osmo 6 filming rig. So it's like this super smart selfie stick, and it does all sorts of things like follow me and all sorts of helps with editing. So I think you get a better product in the end. I'm getting used to it, but we're going to try and we're going to see what happens as time goes on. Hopefully it's going to really add to the experience. But again, today is what we're doing. What we're doing today is we're making the world famous Zhoozh, Zhoozh. This is a magical formula that is in fact highly classified. So if you choose to watch any more of this video, you are agreeing not to divulge any of the secrets that are being told to you on this video. So if you need to leave now, if you need to take to get out of the room, do so, because from now on you are under classified rules. So here we go. So what is Zhoozh? So I started a while ago, and I really like various onion jams and stuff like that, the savory sweet things that you can put on crackers, on eggs, on all sorts of things, on like beef roast, pork roast, all of these crazy things. But I love that sauce idea. My grandmother on my father's side she used to call it chili sauce. It was a little bit different. But anyway, so over the course of time, that recipe was lost of hers, and I feel bad about that. But I'm now to a point where I've gone through and I've looked up a bunch of different recipes for onion jam, and I've tried them all, and I didn't really care for them. So I kind of threw some stuff together on my own, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. So this is Zhoozh. Now what we use Zhoozh for is literally everything. You know the ad on TV, I put that on everything. You can literally do this with Zhoozh. It's a sweetened onion jam, and it can go on eggs. It can go on any sort of meat. It makes an absolute killer sauce for flatbreads. It's great when you add it to pasta sauce. The only issue with it is a little bit complicated to make, not from an ingredient standpoint, but it takes time. Today we'll be making it in an old-fashioned roasting pan, because you start with a massive amount of volume and you end up with a very small amount of finished product because you're simmering it all down. So unless you have the whole afternoon to really dedicate to it, don't start the project. But so what goes into Zhoozh is this. I'll show you the ingredients, then we'll reposition everything, and I'll kind of show you how it all goes together. So the main ingredient is tomatoes. The fresher, the more delicious, the better. Now this is a jar from my friend John and Carrie, and they were gracious enough. They gave us a few of their jars of their canned tomatoes, and they are spectacular. But this is the key component. Now I only have one jar left, so it's just going to be the base. So we have to add some other things to it. But the better the quality of tomatoes you start with, the better the Zhoozh comes out. It's January in Ohio. The tomatoes we get at the store, not good. The point is, though, we're going to make them into magic by just taking a little extra time. So we start with the best tomatoes possible. Now we're going to supplement with store-bought tomatoes. These are vine tomatoes. They're okay. They really are. There's nothing wrong with them. There's just not a lot of taste to them. Now, what we do is we take all the tomatoes, we put it in a blender, and we blend it down. You want the seeds, you want the bulk, you want the fiber from the tomato, because it'll aid in the thickening of the jam. So it all goes into the blender, real simple. With that, We add a little bit of brown sugar, a little bit of cinnamon, and thanks to my neighbor Rita, she's kind of turned me on to the right amount of cinnamon, just a little bit. Don't go crazy with it. Tastes great, but it just sets the balance off. So we'll talk about that. A little bit of cinnamon, of course, some onions, a little bit of paste to add in thickening. And this is something I did here to avoid putting salt in. I put a little bit of V8 in. Now, the reason I put a little bit of V8 in is because it adds a little bit to the flavor profile, because V8 has so much stuff in it. Celery, carrots, all of that stuff, spices. So it really helps in adding the thickening. This is when you can't just get this. If you can just get those right off the vine tomatoes or the beautifully canned tomatoes out of your garden, you don't need this. But if you have to use store-bought tomatoes, which is fine, you need a little bit of extra something to zhuzh it up. Oh, I didn't tell you. So zhuzh is a derivation, if you will, of a Yiddish word, and the idea, the concept of it is to zhuzh it up, is to take something that's relatively plain and add some life to it, add some spice, add some taste, all of that wonderful stuff. So that's where the zhuzh comes from. Now, additionally, what we do is we add a little bit of cayenne pepper. That's a great additive to it. Gives it a little heat, gives it a real nice mouthfeel. And then finally, to aid in thickening, we add chia seeds. Chia seeds are nature's natural thickening agent. A lot like flour does, not quite as good as flour for the process, but it's healthy, good for you, and it adds some ability to thicken the process. Because when we make this, when we put all of these ingredients together in the blender, okay, it'll just be sauce. It'll be about the consistency of V8 juice. So at that point, you put it into the roaster and you wait. Literally, a big batch like this is going to be 4 or 5 hours of just simmering it down to the consistency we want for canning. Now, it's not going to be jelly-like, but it will be jam-like. You can take it on your spoon, and that's when you know it's ready to can. And we'll talk about that process a little later. So that's our ingredients. I'm going to get things set up so we can add to it, and we will be right back. Okay, we're back. While you were gone, I started to lay out some of the ingredients here and get it ready for the blender. Really pretty simple. This is a great recipe to do with friends, and it's time consuming, so if you have somebody to kind of chat with while you're doing it, it kind of makes it go even a little bit faster, but it's great. But we're making a quadruple batch today, and I tell you that with just a little bit of trepidation. I've never made this much at one time, but I have a lot of orders from people, and I want to take some with me when I go out west in 2 weeks. So at any rate, I'm putting all this all goes into the blender. It's all blended together into this slurry. It'll look kind of like thickened V8 juice when it's all done. And then it all goes into the roaster and it cooks down. And it cooks down for a long time, and then we can it. And we'll talk about that process in a little bit. But when you're blending stuff like this with a lot of dry ingredients, you know, it's a little tough to get things started sometimes. So you have to kind of do this as a little bit of a process. So here's our really good tomatoes. Store-bought tomatoes I just cut into quarters. You don't want to really overthink it too much. Same thing with the onions. Oh my God. I know you can't, if you could smell that, that's just heaven right there. So we'll put some of those in because that adds to the liquid. We'll put the lid on and we'll start the blending process here, and we'll show you what we end up with. Now, this is what you end up with. Doesn't look all that appetizing, but that's what goes in and which starts the process. So we're going to put it into our roasting pan here, and we're not going to start the roaster until we get a little bit further along with this. One thing I always do with this roaster, and I don't know, this might be more psychological, but I just like to do a little quick coating of the bottom, because after many church dinners and many scrapings off the bottom of there, I like to just add a little bit of lubrication to get us started off. But so here's the slurry, just the tomatoes, not even the onions yet, so we're going to just pour some of that in. Now, don't pour all of that in, and the reason being, you want a little bit to start the next group, right? You want a little bit of that thing, so don't get too far ahead of yourself. We've got a lot of materials to blend up. It's going to be a lot of tomatoes in here. We're doing 8 pounds of tomatoes. A single recipe, which I'll share with you, starts with 2. We're going to do 8, and we're going to see how that turns out. So we'll take even part of our onion, which we've peeled a little bit. I'm going to set that in there. We're going to see how this starts out. Let's see how we see how this one goes. That's a beauty. We're going to keep doing this. That's the first 2 pounds. I got 6 more to go. And when we're all done, we'll come back and we'll add some more things in. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Boy, howdy, did we give the blender a workout this morning. 8 pounds of tomatoes, 3 pretty good sized sweet onions, and that makes a quadruple batch. Like I said, I've never done it this much at one time before, so wish us luck. But to give you the actual, you know, official, I guess the actual recipe that I do, 2 pounds of tomatoes, 1 medium onion, half a cup of brown sugar, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of cayenne, 1/4 cup of lemon juice. About 1/4 to 1/2 cup of chia seeds, depending on how thick it is. Add a little paste actually to thicken it as well. Those are kind of by feel. So everything you see us doing here, we've done 4 times. So come with me for one quick second. We'll show you. This is what it looks like. That's the start of it right there. You can see it's a little bit of an odd color. That's because of the bulk of the tomato fiber and the onions and all that. That's all that's in there. We haven't added any of the other spices yet. And what's interesting is it smells extremely fresh. And if you get those tomatoes right out of the garden, I mean, it's going to smell really green, really fresh. That's a great thing. And it changes over the course of cooking down, just like sauce does when you cook it down. So what we have right here now, if I can just set that right there. So what we have now is we're going to start our process of cooking it down. Medium heat, we want it to simmer, we don't want it to boil. We want to keep stirring it and all that. So just to kind of go along right here. So this is our brown sugar. So our brown sugar, 4 times what I told you, 4 times the 1/2 cup. This is 2 cups of brown sugar. Voila. Half a teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of cayenne together in here. Actually, no, 2 teaspoons and 2 teaspoons because of our ratio. So that goes in as well. You're going to start to smell this, and it's going to start to be a really wonderful aroma, and then you can kind of add to it as you go as well. So a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. So for 4 times, we're going to go to a full cup. This brings out the brightness. I mean, it's really such a cool, I mean, right now I wish you could smell it, because when you add all that stuff together, it just smells like the garden, and it's really kind of cool. The lemon juice kind of brightens that up as well. So we just stir this in. We start to let it cook down. We're going to add our paste and our chia seeds and a little bit later on when we get a little bit closer, you know, not that far along, but we're going to add that a little bit later on as we start to feel this as it's going here. Now, if you were to just, we're going to stir this right here up real quick, and then I'm going to tell you as I'm going along here, if you just take a spoon, and all we're getting right now is the tomato and onion puree almost, but if you take it right now, it tastes like a garden salad, which is cool. But at the end of the day, it's going to be an entirely different flavor profile. So I'm going to stir this in. I've got all the bulk ingredients in. We're ready to start the heating process. We'll come back when it's time to add paste, chia seeds, and then start to get our jars ready. So stick with us. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so I thought I'd check back in, give you a little bit of an update here. Everything's going well. We're about 2.5 hours in, maybe a little bit longer. Here's what it looks like. You can kind of see a little bit. Whoops, there we go. You can kind of see. So it's already started to change colors, and it's simmering away. We've lost maybe in the pan an inch. So we got quite a bit of distance to go yet. So, but nevertheless, it's coming along, and actually it's going quite well. So, anyways, it's in the smell and the taste is starting to get a little more rich, a little less green. So that's pretty cool. So the next thing we did is we're starting to process our cans. Now these right here are pint cans, 16 ounces. So this is what we're going to use. We've got 7 of them here in the roaster, or in the boiler. So we're going to process these by turning them on and boiling them for, you know, just bring the water to a boil. There's nothing really scientific about that. Let it boil for a few minutes. That sterilizes your jars. You take them out, you set them very carefully down so as not to like handle them too much. Like you grab them with a pair of, you know, tongs. And then you set them aside, and then you get ready to add the material to it. When you get the material added, when you get all the sauce in the jars, you close them up, and then you do a thing called the water bath. You put them back in, you bring the water back to a boil with the material, with the sauce in the sealed jars, and that's what seals your jars for you. So that's a ways away yet, but nevertheless, we're starting our process. So we got our jars. Again, they are 1 pint jars. We have 7 of them in there, if you can see. And then we'll be boiling those and setting those aside here in a minute. We still got some significant amount of time to go, though. As you can see, I don't know if you can see on the edges, you can see it's simmering quite nicely. Main thing now is to keep it stirred and make sure we don't let it get out of control. We don't want to scorch it. And we'll do that. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll be back with you in a few minutes. So stay tuned. Bye. Okay, everybody, we're back. So it's been quite a while since we were on again. We are 6 hours into the cook down, and we're ready to transfer it to jars. So since we last talked, we added the paste. We added just 2 of those little cans. I think that was probably enough. And we added 3/4 of a cup of chia seeds. Now, in the recipe that I used for the single batch, 1/4 cup for 2 pounds of tomatoes. But since we did 8 plus, I figured we needed a whole cup. But when I got a whole cup out, I said, man, that was just a lot of chia seeds. So as a result, I kind of toned that down a little bit. But it's beautiful. It's about 1/3 of the volume we started with, and that's great. Maybe a little bit more, but we're going to transfer it into our jars, and then we're going to put it in our water bath for the boil, and then we'll kind of see where we go from there, and we'll show like an end product here. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to put some of this material into our jars. Now you can see definitely a different color than it was when we started. Quite lovely. And this is a little bit messy, a little bit dangerous. Yeah, it gets a little hot, but you know what? It's absolutely worth it. Want to leave about a half an inch in your jars for expansion. Not that it's going to expand that much, but you don't want to create a situation where you're blowing your lids as you start to go. But you can see it's kind of got a nice jam consistency, and it's going to be real good. I think we got a good batch here. I've been sampling a little bit along the way. Now, the one thing I was going to mention, I failed to mention before, is we use cayenne pepper to add a little bit of that nice mouthfeel. But the reality of it is, in the summer, if we had fresh jalapenos, we would probably use those. I like the taste of the cayenne, but the reality of it is that the fresh jalapenos add some more of that bright flavor to it. And if you get them out of your garden too, that's kind of special. So like I said, while I'm doing this, the better quality tomatoes you get, you're not going to be sorry for that. The best tomatoes you can find are the ones you want to start with, and they're really kind of amazing when you do it that way. Don't be shy to do a winter batch with the store-boughts. Thankfully, we had a little bit of John's tomatoes to give us a little start, and then we went from there. So anyways, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to fill my jars, and I'm going to start that process, and I'll show you at the end, and put them in the water bath, bring it to a boil, let them seal, and we'll be right back. See ya. Okay, we're back one more time. So we're some 7 hours later from where we started, but boy, it was worth it. Look what we got. We got 12 pints of Zhoozh, and it is going to be magical. I'm not an expert on my canning. Just keep in mind, these have all been through the water bath. We're waiting for them to cool. As they cool, they will the cans will seal. You can hear them pop, and then you can tell they're sealed by the center of the jar will be depressed. But boy, doesn't that look beautiful? The color is great. We had a little bit with some leftover lasagna just a couple minutes ago, and it was good stuff. So pretty happy with that batch. That's the biggest batch I've ever done. Again, there they are. Crazy, huh? Hard to believe. But anyway, so that's it, and try it. It's not a hard recipe. It just takes some time. If you've got an afternoon, try it, and I think you'll really, really be pleased with it. And maybe someday when you're down at the Shire, you can share with us, and we'll have some, put on some flatbreads or something like that. So until the next time we're together, may your days be filled with shenanigans, and we appreciate you being here. Tell your friends, and we will talk to you soon. Have a good day. Bye.